If perfection is your goal, failure is your plan. Because what we call perfectionism is rarely about high standards. It's about fear, wearing a mask. We all say we're just trying to get it right. But what if trying to get it right is what's keeping us from getting it done? This video is about that exact trap, the one where you're doing everything except finishing. Because deep down, it's not perfection you're chasing. It's protection. Protection from judgment, from criticism, from being seen. Let's break it wide open. Perfectionism feels like high standards, but it's actually paralysis. And the longer you entertain it, the more it drains your momentum, your creativity, and your confidence. You say you're waiting until it's ready, but what you're really doing is waiting until you're safe. Let me give you an example. Emily's a designer, brilliant ideas, a killer eye for detail, but she hasn't posted a project in over a year. Why? Because every time she nears the finish line, she starts to edit, then re-edit, then scrap it. Not because it's bad, but because it's not perfect. Here's what she's really doing. She's stalling. Because putting it out there would make it real. And that means people could criticize it, or worse, ignore it. That's not artistic integrity, that's fear. Perfectionism disguises itself as care. It's fear of exposure, fear of vulnerability, fear of being seen, not quite polished, not quite genius, not quite flawless. The truth? No one ever built something meaningful by hiding it until it was flawless. Every great thing you admire was once rough, unfinished, a little embarrassing. There's a Japanese concept called wabi-sabi. It means finding beauty in imperfection. A cracked teacup, an asymmetrical bowl. It's the flaws that make it real. Now imagine if your work, your message, your ideas had that kind of freedom. What would happen if you allowed it to be good enough? What if done became your new definition of excellence? Most people never realize how much their perfectionism is costing them. So let's look at the price. It delays momentum, it kills spontaneity, it makes simple things complex, it replaces action with endless tinkering, it makes you dependent on ideal conditions, and worst of all, it reinforces the idea that you aren't enough or that your work is flawless. Let's talk about the science. Studies have shown that perfectionism is strongly linked to anxiety, depression, and even burnout. Why? Because the pressure to be flawless creates a feedback loop of never feeling complete. In one study published in the Journal of Counseling Psychology, researchers found that perfectionists often avoid tasks altogether, a behavior psychologists call maladaptive perfectionism. It's when your standards are so high, they become self-defeating. Sound familiar? A brain loves certainty. Perfectionism gives the illusion of control. But real creativity, real growth, they live in the mess, in drafts, in awkward attempts, in version 1.0. You have to be willing to make something cringeworthy in order to make something great. Let's look at how this plays in real life. You want to write a book? You keep revising chapter 1, again and again, until you've killed the joy that made you want to write it in the first place. You want to start a business? You spend 6 months designing the perfect logo, instead of talking to one potential customer. You want to start making videos? You wait until you have the perfect camera, lighting, and setup, instead of filming with your phone and uploading something real. Perfectionism is a polished prison. You decorate the cell, you shine the bars, while you're still stuck. Now let me flip the script. The opposite of perfectionism is not carelessness, it's courage. Courage to show up unfinished. Courage to be seen trying. Courage to post the messy draft, share the shaky take, release the beta version. Let me tell you about someone who did. Marcus wanted to be a writer, but he never published. Not because he didn't write, but because he never believed it was good enough. Then one day, he decided to post an unedited story online. Just one. It wasn't perfect, but it connected. One comment, then 10, then thousands. He found his voice not by polishing, but by publishing. And that's what you have to remember. Publishing is progress. Completion is power. You think the enemy is imperfection, but the real enemy is inaction. Here's what to do. 1. Set a messy goal. Instead of write the perfect script, aim to write the worst first draft in 20 minutes. 2. Use a timer. Parkinson's law says, work expands to fit the time you give it. Limit yourself. Deadlines create freedom. 3. Share early. Don't wait to reveal your work. Feedback sharpens faster than isolation ever will. 4. Create in batches. Volume beats precision. 10 imperfect pieces will teach you more than one flawless one. 5. Say this out loud. Done is better than perfect. Done is proof I'm moving. Let's bring it even closer to home. Do you remember being a kid and drawing something? A wild, wobbly tree? A rocket that looked more like a carrot? A person with arms coming out of their head? And you didn't care. You didn't think, is this perfect? You thought, I made something. You showed it to your teacher, you gave it to your parents, you taped it to the wall. You didn't wait for it to be polished. You were just proud it existed. And somewhere along the way, someone taught you that exists wasn't enough. And that it had to be right, that it had to win, that it had to be better than theirs. So you stopped sharing, stopped finishing, started hiding, started tweaking endlessly. Now you have folders full of drafts, hard drives full of someday, a brain packed with ideas that never see light. Because now, you're afraid of not being taken seriously, of someone laughing, of being average. But here's the reality. Nobody remembers average, but everyone remembers honest. And honest work is usually messy. It stumbles, it's unsure of itself, but it shows up. That's what separates the creators from the dreamers. Creators don't wait for perfect conditions. They build in the storm. They post when it's shaky. They launch when it's raw. They move when they're unsure. And every time they do, they build a little more muscle. Creative muscle. Courage muscle. Momentum muscle. Let me tell you one more story. A guy named Leo had a dream of making videos that changed lives. Not the flashy kind, just quiet, thoughtful videos that help people feel seen. He spent months obsessing over gear, then lighting, then editing styles. By the time he was ready, 6 months had passed and he still hadn't published a single video. Finally, out of frustration, he filmed one sitting in his car. Natural light, his phone on the dash, no edits. He uploaded it, heart pounding, expecting silence or ridicule. When something wild happened, people loved it. Not because it was perfect, but because it was him. His words, his story, his truth. That video got more comments than anything he ever imagined. And it started everything. Your people aren't waiting for your polish. They're waiting for your presence. Stop hiding behind almost. Stop polishing the soul out of your message. We don't need your perfection. We need your realness. We need your truth, your courage, your unfinished edges. The world is drowning in filters. It's gasping for authenticity. Meet the thing that breathes life again. Perfectionism might feel powerful, but it's just fear in expensive shoes. Strip it down, call it what it is, and then leave it behind. Because everything you want is on the other side of done. Let your work be rough. Let your voice tremble. Let your heart pound, but let it out. Not someday, not when it's polished, now. And when it's out there, and you're tempted to delete it, remember this. Someone needed to hear exactly that. And if you'd waited, you might have missed it. So here it is, your moment. Choose courage over control. Choose done over delayed. Choose momentum over mastery. Because perfectionism is just fear in disguise. But movement is freedom. Watch the next video when you're ready, even if it's not perfect.